This week on RSBANDB Update, the ninjas are back, focusing exclusively on combat and PvM. They bring changes to Smoke Tendrils with the featured bug, favorite bosses like Vorago, soul runes, and the much-used vulnerability bombs. We also debut our first skilling micro-lesson. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 873, recorded Thursday, March 17th, 2022. Tendrils to the Soul. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Ninja Strike Week, Combat Ninja Strike Week in particular. It feels like we've been on that bandwagon for a few weeks in a row, hasn't it, Janice?
What you call it bandwagon, I call it tires. But yes.
Okay. Well, joining us to also discuss the Ninja Strike this week on many combat-related things is David, one of our resident PvM experts. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
His claim to fame with RSBANDB Update is that he has PvM so much in one day on Vorago release week, I think it was, that you had to ice your wrists.
Yeah, next AOD release. But
okay,
AOD.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. But you're also a fan of the Big Rock, aren't you? Vorago.
Yeah, it's my favorite boss by far.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's not even worth having a second favorite, really, because I like Vorago so much more than everything else. It's not even close.
I saw what the patch week was going to look like. The Ninja Strike week, rather, was going to look like, and I knew we immediately had to have you on the show because of that. So,
and David's a day one Solak guy too, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Lots of day one firsts with that. But of course, if you want to follow along, show notes can be found at update.rsbnb.com. You can also join our friends chat BitsBytes, and our Discord is at rsbnb.com/discord. So, jumping straight in with this, Vorago, and you're gonna have to explain what some of these mean, because I know I killed it a few times with you guys, but some of these mechanics are still a little bit hazy for me. So starting off, remove the delay at the end of each gap jump within the borehole, making the transition smoother. And I think I was having problems with this when I was up there, wasn't I? The delay between jumps, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not the worst thing, but it is a little bit annoying and confusing for learners, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think what we're going to find with this as we go through all these bosses here is that this is, in effect, smoothing out a lot of rough edges that have existed for years and just bringing things up to what you could call a modern standard, I guess, in that regard. And they also brought with it the solo ability. It's soloable now, right? This week.
Yeah, it has been soloable in quotes because you would get on an alt account and have the alt account do the top lure roll, but now it is no longer required to have an alt.
Okay. And with that, they have also added a timer bar to Vorago showing the charge up time for the entry attack, which is a fun hazing ritual if you don't go with friends.
I mean, it's a hazing ritual even if you've done 5,000 kills. I still die to that sometimes. I mean, not very often, but you get really tired and you're on your 4th or 5th hour of the boss sometimes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You miss the timing and die.
Oh,
you guys are in your combat bubble, but do you realize how insane this is, that you can legit solo this now? I mean, I think back to the days of early Twitch with people were soloing Calfight King, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe, and this is now Vorago. It's it's hard to comprehend.
It's a message about power creep, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember when the days when doing trio was considered insane, and for this podcast, I was looking back at old PvM videos, and old PvM videos had things like first ever sub 20-minute trio Vorago kill, and it was like a huge deal.
And how long did we take when we trioed it?
I think we were around the 10-minute, 30-second range, something like that. Yeah.
Someone had done it before.
Yeah, now you could solo in under 11 minutes.
Wow. They also reduced the charge time of Vorago's entry attack from 33 ticks to 20 ticks, which brings it down from 19.8 to 12 seconds. Which it was a little bit disconcerting waiting for that long about when was the correct time to pop that vitality potion.
Yeah. I always kind of liked the quiet before the storm, like everything is calm, then you're thrown into the heat of chaos with a 12.5k to the face. But, it's
right.
This is fine. This is better. This is better.
And on that, they made it a lot more accessible in that because the entry attack will now only deal 70% of your max life points in normal mode and 90% in hard mode, as opposed to a fixed amount shared between players.
Yeah, and just to give you a little history of this is the second change to the entry hit at Vorago. Originally, it was 70,000 HP, it was a certain amount of HP that was dealt and split evenly between the players. And so in order to go with small teams, you would have to bring alt accounts with you. So when I learned to duo, it was impossible to get your HP high enough, because you needed a minimum of 3 players with boosted HP to get in. And so I made an alt account and gave it bonds and trained it to 99 constitution. And every single kill, I would bring the alt account to the boss while we were on P2 or P4 so that, I could enter in with the alt, and then I would, lobby, because you couldn't teleport out at the time. So I'd lobby with my alt and then set up my alt so it was ready at face, ready for the next kill. So it was impossible to duo without an alt just to tank the entry hit. And it was very... Yeah, go on.
And now you can see why there's such a huge barrier to entry for Vorago, because you had to do things like this. And this wasn't what we were on prior to this week. This was one before that, right?
Yes. This is the original one.
Yeah.
The new one capped the amount of damage dealt at 12.5k in normal mode, and I believe 14k in hard mode.
Right. And then with that, obviously, Vitality Power Burst, perfect way of mitigating that. If you wanted to spend the adrenaline, you could barricade it, but I don't think you'd want to do that at the start of a fight. So
yeah, you can't barricade the entry hit because it clears that. What people would do is you could get your HP high and then use the ability Transfigure. And if you timed your Transfigure correctly, you would heal back to full health, because Transfigure would heal back all of the damage that you took.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the sacrifice of adrenaline is not worth it.
Is that the "you raise me up" one? It has the hand come. So you raise me up when I.
Yes, that is immortality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a kind of off the walls question here, David. But do people use magic at Vorago?
It is exclusively the style you should use if you have access to new meta mage gear. Magic is by far the best style.
Okay, now when it comes to weapons, is it still dual-wield? Like, are people still using seismic and?
There's a weapon that was introduced to the game called the Fractured Staff of Armadil. That is the best weapon at Vorago.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, because it seemed to me, being a novice, that the seismics were still very relevant, which means if you think about it, the power creep, isn't necessarily all on the weapon side. It's all these peripherals with invention, perks, with all of this other stuff. It may not be quite the weapons themselves anymore.
Yeah, you're 100% correct in the sense that abilities, invention, etc. have boosted damage by around 40% or so. The introduction of the Fractured Staff of Armadil changed that, because FSOA is so unbelievably powerful that it is an example of a weapon by itself being the power creep. But the FSOA and perhaps the Eldritch Crossbow and Saren Godbow, other than those 3 weapons, I would say that power creep is by far from peripherals like invention, prayers, better potions, better perks, better spells, things like that.
Well, yeah, I remember what a boon it was.
Criminal bolts.
Remember what a boon it was when ancient archaeology or ancient invention with archaeology came out, and you're able to get the old best in slot for pennies compared to what it used to be, right? So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So peripherals are by far the biggest power creep, with the exception of the Fracture Staff of Armadyl, the Eldritch Crossbow, and the Saren Godbow. Those are the only 3 weapons that are truly, I think, contributing to power creep.
Okay, like I said, I wasn't trying to take us off course, but
no, that's fine.
That was
I think
it's
good to go on these paths like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also Essence of Finality.
Do you want to go kill Vorago Tannis?
You're trying to get me to join the dark side, Shane.
Hey, I got Earth doing Reaper tasks this week.
No, you did.
I'm pretty sure Shane. We got our kill first try.
We did.
Yeah. And didn't we get like 4 kills in the first ever hour relatively easily?
Let me put it this way. It depends on how much I have to move. If I can be popping hotkeys and do minimal movement, I'm down. I'm down. Well, a lot of movement is hard for me.
With good teammates and instruction, anything is possible. I'm pretty sure, Shane, we also got Solak on our second try. Is that right? Solak was second try.
Though maybe it was first because we didn't pick up your friend for the first one. You and I.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because we just went in duo just so I could show you the P1 mechanic, and then he came for our actual first attempt. So I do. Essentially, we got both Vorago and Solak on the first try. So if you go with the right people, PVM all of a sudden becomes very easy.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you could walk me, I am good at taking direction, over voice, but then I thought, you know what, it'd probably be like one of my patients who I literally would have to tell to, okay, put the device in your lap, make sure it's pointed up. That's where I am in PVM. David would literally have to be like, okay, make sure you're on Revolution.
Everybody starts there. Everybody starts there.
Yeah. But Shane has proven anything's possible.
That's right. Next patch, the encounter will start even if player is killed by the entry attack.
Yeah, this one's weird, I guess. This is fine. I mean, it makes sense given the HP change. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. In solo encounters, players can now jump the gap in the first phase without needing Vorago to be facing away from them.
Yep, this is the thing that makes it soloable. So before this, the top lure who would jump up the rocks would have to provoke the boss into the spot. Then another player would have to stand behind the boss and provoke it back, because you can only jump onto Vorago if he's facing away from you. This now allows you to jump onto Vorago even if he is facing you. So it is now soloable.
That was a really neat animation, I do have to say.
Yeah.
How that worked. That was a fun part of the fight for me.
Oh, jumping on his back?
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
And then just working your way right down. That was good.
Yeah, it's fun.
In phase 2, the gravity fields required to progress have been reduced from 4 to 2.
Yeah, so this makes phase 2 faster. The biggest complaint about older bosses, and we'll get into this with other patch notes, is that they have time-gated phases. DPS has advanced to the point where we're doing so much damage that when there are time-gated phases, we're just standing around doing nothing, waiting for the phase to finish. The first boss this changed out was Solak. Solak had some time-gated phases. The mods realized that they had tuned Solak for a much lower DPM than what players were doing, so they removed some of those. According to Thaxie's math, the combination of the faster entry time plus the removal of these 2 phases, or these 2 gravity fields, make the encounter right around 90 seconds faster, assuming things are being done optimally.
So it's safe to say there's going to be some new PR set this week then.
Yeah, of course. Without a doubt, yes.
Is that only the higher end bosses? Because I can remember back in the day even going with some friends doing Vindicta who were much bigger, badder than I was.
No,
but
it's on the low end as
we-
well, or the beginner end. We'll
I
talk
was gonna
about
say,
that.
but they like skipped. I mean, he would like sometimes you'd kill him before he even called Vindicta. It seemed like he'd be dead.
Yeah.
It was really
Well,
quick.
I mean, it makes sense. The Vindicta record is like 11-second solo or something. So, yeah.
Okay.
Continuing on in phase 2, the bring him down activity is now twice as fast, which increased the bleed damage from 150 to 250 in normal mode and 250 to 400 in hard mode to accommodate this change.
This is great. I'm 100% convinced that the reason I have to replace my mouse every 18 months is because the number of clicks I have to do on this phase is destroying my left click button. So now I turn on my trackpad for Vorago and use my trackpad to click it. So half the clicks is great.
And just since we're on this here, the mouse that both David and I use and swear by for RS, amongst other things, is the Corsair Scimitar.
Yep.
Wonderful
I think
mouse.
it's the best. It's the best I've ever used, and I
Yeah.
feel like I've used all of them.
Yeah, my favorite part about it is that the thumb number pad is adjustable.
Me too. It works for small hands or big hands or medium hands. It's great, and the lights are pretty.
Yeah, you can
See,
customize
I
that.
like my big bear claw. It took a minute to get used to it, but now I don't think I could change. It's that big Logitech's got 3 buttons. Like
okay.
it's a claw. Boom. It's a beefy boy.
For Raksha changes, Raksha will no longer change targets unexpectedly as it has been doing in rare cases, and this will mostly stop Raksha from attacking the first player to attack it, instead targeting the player who began the encounter.
This is nice. This was annoying in duo. It wasn't that big of a deal because you could vote back, and Raksha doesn't hit that hard, but it was irritating, and they removed a thing that's irritating.
Yeah, I think we
So
experienced this when we went
yep.
as well. So, rockfall damage area has been decreased from 7x7 to 5x5 to better fit the size of the visual. And you have to understand that this is an incredibly annoying mechanic because, at least for me, it's about movement. And the fact that you're talking about moving something from 7x7 to 5x5 means that you're, in effect, removing 24 potential squares where you can... or adding 24 potential extra squares where you can stand with that reduction in size.
The main thing is the visual aspect to me. The fact that the rocks appeared to hit a 5x5 radius, but did not, in fact, hit a 5x5 radius was pretty brutal for learners, especially, I think.
Yeah. I was surprised when I was seeing this that there's nothing done with the contrast on this, because this was actually the first boss I had to activate a lighter skybox in order to see things properly on to be successful with it. So
interesting. I
welcome
always
to my world, my friend.
I always play with a light skybox because it helps me so much for PVM. But I could see that if I had like a better graphics card, then it would be pretty to see stuff in darkness and whatnot.
Yeah.
So.
And
that's
now
why
the truth comes out. All the accessibility features were really due to PVM.
They did a Croesus accessibility feature. That's skilling.
For PVM. Well,
that is skill. It's skilling. It's skilling.
Oh boy.
Well, if it's skilling, why else come I can't do it without you?
Well, it's not soloable.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. Nice.
In Phase 4, various block tiles have been removed from the west pipes, and this is what I think people were talking about in the last live stream, where certain familiars would get stuck at points in Phase 4.
Yeah, so this was always so irritating. My friend, who is getting married this weekend, would always, for some reason, the thing that sticks in his mind for Ripper Demons when they won't attack the target you're trying to attack is the statues in Harry Potter who are there to help the students, and McGonagall is like, guardians of Hogwarts, do your duty, protect your students, attack the intruders. And anytime we're together PVMing and his Ripper Demon won't attack, he just yells that line in a McGonagall voice, and I crack up every time because it is so funny. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it is.
Oh, the fun little aspects here or there that you can find in RS, tying it to various pop culture things, in this case Harry Potter. That's wonderful. Also in Phase 4, the Shadow Anima will now be absorbed more consistently when moving within close proximity of it. That activates special attack, or provides you the ability to activate the special attack to deal more damage. And the Shadow Anima no longer has an absorb option to prevent accidental interactions with.
Yeah, these last two should have always existed, because
Right.
both again just things that were irritating for no reason.
Yeah. All right, now moving back onto the Queen Black Dragon. Tanis, you were wondering if it was just going to be high level bosses here. We have the Queen Black Dragon making an appearance.
A little bit of love. For the pet hunters out there, right?
No, for everybody, because everybody who does QBD Reaper was always annoyed by this. They reduced the length of the intro animation for players who had previously defeated the QBD. And this shaves about, I think somebody said in Clan Quest, about 17 seconds off it.
Yeah, that's real nice, man.
So
with a meta setup and Prisms of Salvation, kill times are now around 25 seconds, which is way better for a boss that drops QBD-esque loot.
They did the same thing for next, reduce the length of the intro animation, start the encounter faster, because, who needs to hear next scream at each of her generals each and every time you run the kill? Fair enough. Nothing to write home about with that one. For Zuck, the portal at War's Retreat in the Max Guild can now be attuned to an alternate arrival point in front of Zuck, and the same can be done with the Fateful portal. Now,
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, which one would you use? Would you use the one right up front or the one further back? Because I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to save time, and if you're in a thing where you might be needing to adrenaline stall, I can see needing to get in right up front first at the beginning, but I don't know. I kind of like the ambience of the area.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it probably only saves like 5 seconds per kill, so maybe it's whatever. But it's a nice option.
Shane likes to enjoy the moment before he puts something to death.
the many moments before.
Shane is out here savoring.
Let's talk about the Elite Dungeons. The drop rate of uniques across the modes has been increased to give a unified drop rate per clear. Starting with Temple of Amanishi, Ancient Scales will now drop from Syria at 50% and 33% of the solo rates in duo and trio mode, and these rates are per player. What this effectively means with this is that you're going to have effectively better odds at getting these scales if you're going in a duo or trio.
Oh, man, I thought you meant like modes as in story mode. Nope.
No. Yeah. Before, the drop rates were abysmal in duo and
and that's why
it wasn't worth doing.
That's why you talk to so many people, hey, I'm going through Elite Dungeon. Do you want somebody to go along with you? No, I'd rather solo it because of the drop rates, and then just use the Death Touch Dart on Ambassador at the end of ED3. So these changes aim to rectify some of that. For Dragonkin Lab, Draconic Energy will now drop from the Blackstone Dragon at 50% and 33% of the solo rates in duo trio modes, same as with Siriu. And the greater ability codices from Aslarn, Varaklith, and the Blackstone Dragon have been tweaked so that they're representative across the board. Solo used to be 100 out of 10,000, which becomes now 120 out of 10,000. Duo and trio remain unchanged at 60 out of 10,000 and 40 out of 10,000, respectively. So it's a bit of a buff on the solo aspect.
40 out of 10,000 for what?
Like greater barge.
Ability codices.
Oh my God.
Greater
40 out of 10,000?
Yeah, that's a 0.4% chance.
You have to go through that 10,000 times. Or,
no.
Divided by 40, but still. You gotta do it a lot.
Probably about 50 odd ish % chance of getting that. Probably a couple hundred or so.
Yeah. Well, solo is great though.
Yeah, it got a buff. But and I mean these are also not the first two, Astellarn and Veraklith. I think people do solo ED2 from time to time, right?
That's most of what I do now because
Okay.
I got the helm and the whip from the new creatures. So my Iron Man either does Solak or ED2 or dailies. Those are the three things I do in RS right now.
All right. Now here's the big one.
The whip, Shane.
I know.
The whip.
It's able to do a lot of good stuff, that new whip and melee setup. But here's the one everybody's probably jumping up and down about this week. Eldritch crossbow pieces from the Ambassador for duo and trio have been buffed. Solo remains at 180 out of 10,000, so 1.8% chance. Duo 60 out of 10,000 becomes 90 out of 10,000, and trios 38 out of 10,000 becomes 60 out of 10,000. So for duo and trio, this is a 50 and 57% buff to the drop rates, respectively.
Yeah, that's huge. It makes ED3 worth doing in group encounters if you're not very efficient at soloing. Whereas before, it was better to be terrible at soloing versus doing a group.
And, I think with that, I think I prefer ED2 the most personally. That's the one I like the best. I don't know where you come down on that, David. But
I think all three are great.
Okay. I think with this, if somebody approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to start doing weekly ED2 ED3 runs and maybe start seeing how our luck works on this," I'd be up for this, because hopefully this will encourage more people to duo and trio it, with the drop rates being relatively the same now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I like this change a lot. Moving on, Smoke Tendrils. They teased that something was on the way with this one, and the quote they start this off is, "It's not a bug, it's a feature." So,
oh boy.
Yeah, this is going to require a bit of explanation. So I'm going to read through this and then we'll parse it out. So you've been
prior to your explanation, Shane, I think it's
important
for listeners that, as we talk about every time I come on, Mage is just really desperately in need of more buffs. So I think it's great.
Right? Every
time I come on, it's like Mage gets another buff, and I think it's important that Magic keeps getting buffed and buffed and buffed, because it's not good enough to be twice as good as the other styles. We need to push that further beyond.
He's being sarcastic, everyone. This is more Magic power creep.
We gotta hit Ultra Instinct for Magic.
All right. So if you've been using Smoke Cloud or the Staff of Armadyl since their recent introduction, I assume they mean Fractured Staff of Armadyl since they call it recent, you may have happened upon a hidden bonus that they both work with the Smoke Tendrils ability to guarantee a critical strike. While this feature wasn't originally intended, it's led to some interesting interactions that we rather like, Jagex says. So, we made some changes to ensure the critical strike functionality is part of the Smoke Tendrils ability itself, rather than a bug. Oh boy. Strap in, everyone.
Damage. Yeah, so the way it was before, Smoke Tendrils, for whatever reason, every time you used it, it crit. That meant that every hit of Smoke Tendrils, which you can hit up to 4 times, inside a Staff of Armadyl spec, would produce an auto attack. Those auto attacks could then crit, etc. It was never intended. It wasn't intended in the sense that the tooltip never said Smoke Tendrils is guaranteed critical strike.
No.
Obviously, each critical hit of Tendrils would also interact with Tsunami, so that it would give you 10% adrenaline. So each hit of Smoke Tendrils, 4 of them, is 10% adrenaline, and guaranteed auto attack. So 40%. So you use Smoke Tendrils, you get back 40% adrenaline. You get 4 guaranteed autos. Those 4 guaranteed autos then have a chance to do autos. Those autos then have a chance for more autos, etc.
And doing the autos is part of the Fractured Staff of Armadyl, of course. But with this, with Smoke Tendrils now, even if you're just using Smoke Tendrils itself, it's going to crit on each hit and provide you that adrenaline bonus for Tsunami as well. We need to make that 100% clear on this, why it's being normalized. Also with this, damage is now calculated in a more standardized way. It will no longer give adrenaline twice per hit when affected by a tsunami, which is fine. You could say that was probably too much. It'll also both be affected by the Precise and Equilibrium Invention perks, which throw back to our perk micro lesson, 2 of the cheapest perks that you can get that provide you some of the best benefit out there. This now affects what you're witnessing with Smoke Tendrils. Each hit gives a critical strike reliably. Damage inflicted on the player is now calculated separately from the damage dealt, which means you won't get walloped with the actual crit numbers. It'll be more standardized. And a critical strike that increases damage into the top 95% can still occur through the Biting Invention perk and other bonuses. So even if you don't get these guaranteed critical hits, but you hit really high, you can still get extra crits off this. And one thing I want to point out is that each of these hits now is also going to be interacting with your Channeler's Ring too, right?
Yeah, and I still think that at places where Reavers works, just like camping Reaver is your best bet, but it could be, I'm not sure what the math is, it could be that it is worthwhile to switch for Channelers just for Smoke Tendrils.
How many times does it hit, 3 or 4?
It depends how long you let it go. So most people either cancel after 2 hits or 3 hits, depending on their rotation. But you could let it last for all 4 hits.
So anywhere then you're looking between 8 and 16% critical strike chance that builds up if you're using the Channeler's Ring on this, in addition to the guaranteed crits.
Right. So it's a buff to the Channeler's Ring at places where you don't have 100% accuracy. So think like Telos, for example.
I think we need to sit down here. This feels like this has just catapulted this ability beyond the other 2 tendrils.
Well, I would say that this is more or less how Tendrils was working before. But instead of it being a bug that's getting removed, it's a bug that's getting affirmed and buffed because it works with Precise and Equilibrium, which makes it even more powerful. So I would say that it makes Mage a little bit more powerful, but it also removes any concerns that this gets taken away because it's a bug and it is now, cast in stone as a feature.
Did I make a mistake last year buying Greater Ricochet and the entire range setup?
No, because ranged is still very good at a few bosses. It's much easier to learn than Magic. And Magic has a 6.5 bill entry point versus ranged.
That's true. Because, we talk about Magic being OP and whatnot, of course, but we're also, with that, assuming that if people have the Fractured Staff, which is probably still about 5 bill, I'd say, right? Ish?
Yeah, I think so.
And you also got to throw Magma Tempest on there as well. We talked about that. It's not as broken as it was before, but it's still, I think you guys said, in the top 3 of the base Magic basics, right?
Yeah, Fractured Staff of Armadyl is about 5.3 bill. Greater Chain's around 750 mil. Magma Tempest is around 1.2 bill. And then Seismix is another 1.2 bill or so, 1.5 bill. So you realistically need about 10 bill to create a really strong Magic setup. Plus, you definitely want an EOF with a Staff of Armadyl in it. So, ranged is not as good, but it's
consistent and easier to get into.
It's also the difference in difficulty of maximizing the styles could not be larger. Ranged is so much easier to use than Magic, I think.
Yeah, and just by listing everything off here, I think you've illustrated why that is. And with such a high entry behind that, that's something that I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of if they're just starting PVM or just doing combat in general with Magic. They don't know exactly what they're walking into. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
Greco is a great purchase, and you should feel good about it.
Yeah, I've been having really good success with ranged, and I honestly have always liked ranged since I started playing RS. So I don't regret it in one bit, but I see what could be happening, and well, maybe this will be a goal for at some point in the future if I hit a massive windfall somewhere. So, but Tannis, any thoughts on this? Because I mean, woof.
I mean, it's not the first time we've seen this, and I mean, yeah, rich get richer, right? I mean, every time that there's a bug or something like that, we'll just write it in. We'll just write it into the meta of it.
Yeah, just like stand under care pack.
We should be clear that this is not players exploiting something.
No,
this is just This is just using an ability. That is how the ability worked. There's no way to use the ability differently. There's no you don't sit on your head and do a dance and then it goes off. It's zero bug abuse whatsoever, and I think that's super important. Whereas I think with 4-ticking, people considered that bug abuse because there was an intentionality behind it. This is just how the ability is coded. It is not on the players whatsoever. So I think that is an important thing to say.
Yeah, I agree. And it's been working this way behind the scenes. This kind of just firms it up to operate in a more expected way, let's just say. So
yes,
you're just lucky it doesn't increase your XP.
I know
that should be nerfed tomorrow.
I know precisely what update you're thinking of with that.
Hey, more magic XP per hour, Tannis. Come on.
All right. Before we continue on with the patch notes, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for this episode, because without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. And we have our roundtable this weekend where Patreon supporters can come chat with us, just have a fun, what is in effect an open RSBANDB update episode, really discussing anything RuneScape related that comes up. We also got the poll running for the next monthly bit. The choices are Dailyscape Part 3, playing RuneScape with Legacy Combat in 2022, and what would happen if the complicated comp rework actually happened. And we have more about that at patreon.com/RSBANDB if you're a Patreon supporter. Or if you want to vote in that or take part in the roundtable, you can do that by joining our Patreon page for as little as $1 a month that you can find at patreon.com/RSBANDB, like these wonderful people have this week, including Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvid's L, Big Huge Rat, Bryflex, Kristen S., Chunk the Monk, Cook Me Plonks, Diana, Duramax, Elo Matey, Flaws and Man, Free Milk, Jacob R., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jeebus, Jesse W., Ling01, Nate the Great, Nick G., Patty the Architect, Pernasius, Renhawk, Ricky A., Samuel FL, Skio10, Scott DS, Seth W., Stabiv, Taylor B., The Naked Captain, The Lion, Tom V., Zant, and Zazakon. Thank you, everybody, for your support. It truly does mean the world to us. We have 3 tiers available, starting at $1 a month. You gain access to the entire back catalog of monthly bits, get to vote in the monthly bit polls, and attend the round table. And you also get to mention the show notes. For $3 a month, you'll get a special VIP rank on Discord, a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and access to high-quality stereo versions of the podcast, in addition to everything else. And for $5 a month, if you want to give the ultimate gift, you can receive a shout-out each and every week on the podcast, and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. And oh boy, there will be some of those coming from pre-show this week. That went kind of off the wall, but that's what this is all about. We are, of course, working to the Haunt Ones challenge, should we ever reach the mystical $500 a month tier. But things are looking great that we'll be able to get out our special Patreon art mail out in April to anybody who provides shipping info and wants to take part in that. Just visit patreon.com/RSBANDB and sign up. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for allowing us to do what we do here.
Yeah. Thanks for being the best Patreons and best community out there. Bar none.
All right. Continuing on, after Smoke Tendrils, the Ruby Aurora spell now reliably provides its buff to the other players. You ever know anyone to use Ruby Aurora, David?
No, because it's not as good as Insight Fear. So.
Right. The description is a simple fire spell. On hit has a chance to increase damage output by 1% per stack, up to 3 stacks, to all players within a 5-tile radius from the caster.
Yeah, even at Yaka with 9 other players, I don't think it would be as good as the player using Ruby Aurora, just using Insight Fear, unless maybe you're swapping between Insight Fear and Ruby Aurora to apply after you Tsunami, switch to Ruby Aurora, apply the buff, switch back to Insight Fear. You could do that, I suppose.
Yeah, that was
Sounds like a lot of effort for non-speed guys, though.
And that was actually the same analysis that Thaxi came up with this week when he was looking at these patch notes. So you guys agree on that?
Yeah, sounds about right.
The Havoc, Snipe, and Dragon Breath abilities can now be temporarily used to disable prayers on a Crusade the Damned, or the Doomed, in Barrows.
Damn Doomed?
Yeah. I was wondering about this because I went to get my Barrows Defenders back in January. And I would just use the amulet on a Crusade because I didn't want to bring a style swap. But now, if you use Snipe or Dragon Breath, you can temporarily disable the prayers to get some nice spike damage in.
You should still use the amulet.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're what, like 500 GP, right?
Yeah, and you know, they'll probably crash even more after this. So why not, right?
Yep.
The Impatient Invention perk will now work with Slice, Piercing Shot, Rack, and Rune. So I know what Impatient does. Allows you to get extra adrenaline when using basic abilities. Was this just not working before?
It sounds like it was just bugged. Slice and Piercing Shot aren't really used that often, but Rack sure is.
Yeah.
You know, it applies so much damage to a stunned target, so that's good. You know, we need once again, Magic really needs more adrenaline. So glad it's getting it.
Yeah, I know I have Piercing Shot near the end of my ranged basics. I don't think it goes off that much, but
I imagine your bar would be set up so you're not Piercing Shotting anything really.
Yeah, I think it is. So, all right, so that's another buff for Rack and Rune. Surge, Escape, and Bladed Dive will no longer cause you to enter a combat stance, but using these abilities well in combat will maintain it, and using these abilities while adrenaline is draining will still cause you to enter a combat stance. So what this basically means is that if you're just using these to get around, you won't be put into combat, but if you use them during combat, it will maintain combat.
Yeah, this is awesome for clues when you're teleporting to a lodestone. You no longer have to wait to get out of combat, and it's awesome for farm runs. Can you teleport to Catherby Farm Patch without the lodestone network?
Yes.
Yeah, what are you supposed to be using? The lunar spell? Okay. Yeah, so on my Iron Man, when I do farm runs, I don't switch to the lunar spell book, although I probably should. Yeah, you probably should be using lunars, it sounds like. But, you know, teleporting to the Catherby Farm Patch is nice, too. Those are the two things I could think of. But especially clues. Clues, it's really, really nice.
Here's one. Armclad Clan, or Armclad Hour during double XP. You surge that whole thing.
Oh, really? For summoning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is that enough for just one surge, or do you need to do a double or a bladed dive with it? Or
yeah, all three.
Yeah. But if there's
you bladed dive from the Ithel Bank diagonally, and then you double surge, fill your pouches, and then use the elf crystal to teleport back to Ithel Bank. And you just do that over and over.
Wow,
yeah, it's crazy.
I use the Taverley shop method, but that's another one that you could use. That's pretty.
Yeah, I do that too in the hopes that there are deposit boxes and stuff. But this one's like for that hour, it's worth it.
Yeah, for Amlot Hour, it's very good. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Hurblur bombs. These now have a range of 10 tiles instead of 9. I don't know where the extra 1 would come in, but I guess it's better to have a nice round number of 10 rather than 9.
It's useful.
Yeah. Updated the throw option to use on an active target. So what this means is that you have it on your action bar. You don't need to click on the target after pressing the bomb button. Your character will just throw the bomb at your target.
Yeah, this makes Volming Volm bombs way more accessible for casual players who aren't like trying to predict spawns, because the way you would do it before is you throw it 2 ticks, like between 1 and 3 ticks before the spawn time, so that it'll activate as soon as the boss spawns.
Okay.
So you're losing 1 game tick if you do it this way, but it guarantees that you hit it every time. The other reason this is incredible is that there are a lot of places that you want to Volm bomb, but it's really, really annoying to get the tile correct. Like only 1 tile works and no other tile works. So 2 examples are Astelarn and the Black Hands for Blackstone Dragon. And it was very difficult to Volm bomb them correctly because only 1 tile would work. And now you just click your Volm bomb keybind and it Volm bombs them, automatically, which is super, super nice. And I hope everyone is using Volm bombs everywhere. I know they're expensive, but they're definitely worth it. They're really, really good.
We did talk them up in Micro Lesson 3, the combat.
Oh,
inventory.
good.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. Good. I remember. Yes.
Yeah, so Micro Lesson 2 has come up in this Ninja Strike, and Micro Lesson 3 has come up. Micro Lesson 4 will come up after in the show. They also improved the use functionality that when used from the backpack, you can now target ground coordinates. You weren't able to do that before. And the bombs can now be thrown at the NPC more consistently, which notably fixes issues with large bosses that are surrounded by blocking, and they mentioned specifically Astelarn and Raksha.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah. And then when you drag the bomb to the inventory, you'll be able to choose which interaction mode you want to use. This will allow you to use keybinds for both the throw or the use option. So I'm guessing the throw one is the one where you actually have to click where you want it to go, and then use would just use it on your existing target, right?
Yep.
Or is it the other way around?
No, that is correct.
Okay.
You got it exactly right. The throw is technically better because you lose 0 ticks, but for most players, losing 1 tick of 10% damage is not worth it. Or like maybe you lose 2 or 3 ticks, but losing a couple seconds is not worth over and over again, which I think is a lot of players experience with Volm bombs. And so this is definitely the option you should use if you're not super, super familiar with how they work.
Good. And I'll just say with this, now that they've done this, it would be nice to have this as a meta option for so many other items to be able to choose what happens when you push it on the action bar. Logs come to mind as one, and pretty much any item. I don't know how complicated that would be to bring in, but imagine dragging whatever item you want to the action bar and being able to choose what the keybind option would be.
Yeah, I agree.
So now that we know it's been done with the bombs, I think the next question would be, can we do this for all items, or would that be a complicated thing to do? That's my next big question on this. All right. Time to really put your nose to the grindstone, David. Boss times have now been updated to include milliseconds.
Yeah, that's fun for speed kills and records and stuff.
But
I like it.
The funny part about this, though, is that you're still tied to the tick system. So any increment you see
0.6
is going to be
intervals.
Is going to be a multiple of 6 or something based on how it goes.
Yep.
So
it sure is.
It shows what's happening behind the scenes with that.
Now, do you need a microscope to see a millisecond there, Shane?
You might. You're not going to really feel much difference with this. So, Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's another one you're not going to really see much difference with. I don't know if anybody who is using this yet. There is now an option to toggle precise adrenaline value, which will show decimal values for adrenaline if necessary. It's going to be found under Settings, Combat and Action Bar, then Action Bar. So if you have that 98.9% adrenaline and you're wondering when you're going to tick over next, or maybe you're at 99.9, you're going to be able to see that now. Like, I don't know. I don't feel these last 2 patch notes are necessary, personally.
I think boss kill times is fun because a lot of there's a small but very active community who plays the game to try to get world records, and milliseconds makes a difference in world records.
What about the adrenaline one?
Oh, I mean, I don't think it matters.
Okay. The reward chests for the Elite Dungeons have been updated from 32 to 48, and for Croesus from 30 to 48.
Yeah, so when are we getting a Beast of Burden that exceeds 32 carrying capacity? Because it sounds like that's possible, right? Isn't that correct?
Oh my god, I don't want to think what that would look like and what that would enable, but I guess now that you brought it up,
I just don't see why Mammoth can't be like 40 inventory slots, because 30 to 32 is silly. Isn't that silly, Shane?
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
it is, especially for the cost of the Mammoth.
Yeah, I mean, it has the nice perk that the scroll gives, so that's cute.
What does its scroll do?
It lets you consume solid food from the inventory directly without losing adrenaline for the consumption of said solid food. Or from the pouch, from the Mammoth. It lets you consume it from the Mammoth.
Fair enough.
So that is good. But 30 versus 32 is a little cartoonish, I think. Yeah. It's time to give our Mammoth friend a few more inventory slots.
I wonder if that'd be too much power creep or too powerful.
I don't think so. No, I don't think anyone is using Mammoths.
Yeah, people barely eat anymore anyway. I eat. Like, the vast majority. Hungry. David told me to, see? So I just do what he tells me to.
I have to drop food from my inventory to pick up drops at most places, so I don't really think so.
Yeah. Added a buff bar icon that will display the active ammunition in your quiver, whether this be the Tyrannin quiver or the Pernix quiver. It'll now show the icon of what ammo you're using, and if the quiver is empty, only an image of the quiver itself will show. If you're wondering what those quiver animations or ammo icons were on your buff bar this week.
I gotta find this toggle, because it showed up and I'm like, I don't need this while mining.
I don't think there is a toggle for that, my friend.
No toggle?
No.
Dun, dun, dun.
I like it. I think it's useful in case I forget to switch ammo.
Totally. Unless you're like mining, and I don't really need it.
Why do you wear your quiver mining?
Because it has a teleport to light in my kit on.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What
was that, David?
I said that too.
Okay. When saving and loading a preset with an exact matching enabled, the contents of the quiver will now be respected. All right. Now here's a nice little quality of life one. The Ancient Elven Ritual Shard cooldown now resets when using the upgraded Wars Altar within Wars Retreat. Wonderful.
Yep.
Because it was
There's still more things that should be reset by Wars, but this was one of them.
Yeah,
it's great
because this also reset your Excalibur. You often use the Excalibur and the Shard at the same time, so it's good to have them both reset now. And once again, another 2 items we talked about in the combat inventory micro lesson. Training dummies at Wars Retreat now have a 10k damage cap and a 12k damage cap for a critical hit. Now, my question is, what did they have before?
I'm confused by this sort of, because I haven't tested this and it's unclear to me if things like Smoke Cloud and Grimoire would change this. You know, like if not, that seems weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's read into the next one then. They introduced Dragon, Undead, and Demon training dummies from the dispenser at Wars Retreat. Because obviously those are matching the 3 Slayer perks that you can put on your weapon for extra damage, so you can attune the dummy to that type. So
Yeah.
and
also sigils.
Because I was in the same boat as you. I didn't get why this was in, and I wasn't gonna actually highlight this to talk about this because I thought, okay.
Yeah, the dragon, undead,
here.
and demon training dummies is cool because you
that
get to test
that
out
one's useful.
Yeah, that one's really nice.
All right. And with much regret and sadness, they have removed the question mark text from the Liberation of Mazcab boss interface. This had been like this since release, and it was effectively hinting that when they did the first 2 raid bosses, they were potentially considering doing a third, but obviously that third one never materialized.
I know. The dream is dead, Shane.
So going forward, we won't get that. I know.
Wait, now you're a raider, so you'd want this to happen.
Yes,
you're
exactly.
Exactly. You want to find out what happens next.
Yes, that's exactly it. Before Christmas this past year, before starting the whole PVM stuff, I would have thought, okay. But now, it's a question of, would they ever do another raid like this? Because obviously this isn't raids in the classical sense of WoW or ESO raids, but it was what Jagex first called a raid, and there was always that idea that there could be the third one. But I guess we'll never know now.
I know.
Well, it would have just been... Sorry, David, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, I want my Eret Shaman. And I want the air and fire versions of Yaka.
Oh, is that what people thought it was going to be?
That's what was teased at RuneFest. They were like coming next summer, Eret Shaman, and then they had an air version and fire version of Yaka, and it was going to split your team into groups of 5, and 5 of you were going to take on the air version, and 5 of you were going to take on the fire version. And that was going to be, and then the last boss was the Eret Shaman at the end. And so they're adding 3 more bosses to the raid.
That sounds actually interesting. I will. I
know, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would.
Shane would be all over that.
But hasn't the boss encounters and just the way that they're put together now drifted so far away from that you couldn't really make it feel contiguous, which it would need to be, right? Like, because
you know what I think
it's
killed
already just 3 individual boss encounters. It's not
2,
right? But if you add another one, it would be. It's 3 boss
I think they
encounters.
can make it contiguous because you were just gonna, when you dive into the whirlpool, instead of washing up on the beach, you were just gonna go to the next phase of the raid, which was
that's
like
what it was supposed
puzzle.
to be.
Okay.
Yeah, you dive into the whirlpool, go into another puzzle, your team splits in groups of 5, you take on the 2 other similar Yaka things, then you meet up and a group of 10 of you takes on the Eret Shaman, and then you win the raid.
You know what I think probably killed this? What probably killed this internally is that I think the metrics that they have for group bosses larger than 3 show that people really prefer doing either the small group stuff like the EDs or the solo bosses.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's probably what the problem was.
Well, it's hard to find 10 people you can stand to do PVM like that, right? I mean, that's a lot of ego in one small spot.
I think Raid FC isn't as bad as people think.
No, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to be fine with relatively slow kill times, but for the most part, Shane, you all get kills, right? Like, fine.
Yeah, and in the last 3 months, I can only think of a handful of bad instances, and most of those were dealt with very quickly. And the divergence between my Beastmaster and Yaka kills is only 5 or less at this point, so it's not like the Yaka kill fails every day or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's okay. It would definitely be bad in the beginning. The first 6 months would be a disaster, but then Raid FC would get organized, there'd be easy strategies, and it'd be fine.
Yeah, it would. It would. Funny story about that. I actually, you remember Sorensen 57, RR Man and Sorensen 57, who used to send the audio questions in, right, Tanis?
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for my raid today, and it turned out that it was Sorensen who was hosting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That was something. Anyways, the
enough.
insane Reaper achievement now displays the requirements to show which collection log the player has completed, so that they can better track their progress. Good. And NPC health bars make better use of comma separators when displaying values over 1,000. Wonderful. 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 All right, moving on. Boss, Slayer, and Treasure Trail collection log achievements are no longer marked as hidden in the achievements interface. I don't know why they would have been marked as hidden beforehand. A pop-up will now appear whenever a new item for a collection log has been obtained. You can turn this on or off in settings, interfaces, and information windows. So what they're effectively trying to do with this is add more of a wow moment if you get something that goes into a collection log at a boss or something like that. So
That's nice.
yeah. All right, this next one, your wheelhouse, Tanis, and we were teased that something was coming in relation to the cost of using Insight Fear on the rune side, whether it be the water or soul runes. We didn't know, but it turns out that it was on the soul rune side, in that this week soul rune production has been increased to give triple the amount of runes per charge than previously it was doing. So what this means now is that 4 essence will generate 1 charge, and 1 1/4 charges, 1.25 charges, made 3 soul runes. Or makes 3 soul runes now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for my patch note this week. Thank you. Shall I rub coal dust on my dirty little face? Thank you, sir. Shake my tin can. No, no. This was nice. Primarily, I think this is going to help with the 6K soul rune price, and I mean, really, it just came down to a balancing issue, because you can get a lot more runes through doing Abyss and just nature's what have you. So it doesn't really affect XP. It's so
Yeah.
it should help out. It should help out the PVM.
Yeah,
bringing
so
down that Insight Fear.
effectively, what this means is that 4 essences generate 1 charge. So with that, 20 essences generate 5 charges, and with that, you will get 12 soul runes out of 20 essences. Or did I do that math right?
That sounds right. It's definitely an improvement, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Because previously it was way, way worse than that. It was 1.25 charges per 1 rune, which would have been 4 essences for 1 rune.
Yeah, so soul runes are obviously the best, more or less the best rune crafting XP per hour you can get. And I would say it made the GP per hour go from pathetic to pitiful. But it's basically fully AFK, and it's the best XP. So it's a pretty good way to train rune crafting. Like blood runes through the Abyss is way, way, way more GP per hour, but it sure is not AFK.
Yeah, and since last weekend, soul runes have dropped about 800 GP in value since
they'll go
something
back
was
up.
on the way.
I think they'll go back up, because it's not like it's that big of a difference.
It's like the contractor stool. You ever heard of that, Shane?
No.
It can be. You can get it fast, you can get it cheap, or you can get it good.
Right.
But you can only pick 2.
Okay, so it's kind of like our 3-legged stool analogy that we've talked about before with skilling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to have to address the water rune side of this as well?
I sure hope so. The Iron Men of the world are suffering. I mean, I do my rune shop run every day. That's like 7,000 water runes an hour. I don't know.
I think I can fix this. I can fix this for you, David.
How?
If you remember right, There was a little tweak a while back, shortly after Shattered Worlds came out, that made it so that you couldn't just surge straight to like the water.
Oh, they rotated it, right?
Talisman. Right. Undo that, and we're back, baby. We're back.
Yeah, I mean, even through the Abyss, though, you can craft a ton of water runes an hour. It just feels so absurd to be rune crafting water runes at 99 rune crafting. I don't know. Something about that is just silly to me, but whatever. It's fine.
Well, maybe they could do. I mean, I don't know. It's not the same mechanics as the soul runes, but you might be able to increase the number you get. Maybe that should be across the board with some of the elemental low level runes.
Yeah.
You mean mess with the rune multipliers for elementals?
Yes.
According to the RS Wiki right now, and everybody always take these with a grain of salt because prices fluctuate. According to the RS Wiki right now, water rune crafting through the Abyss is 28 mil an hour profit.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No, Jesus, Lord have mercy. Are you kidding me?
That's what it says.
No, that sounds right to me.
You're kidding me.
Shane, do you like that or dislike it? I think it's a little silly, but
it is a little silly, but I mean, you look at all the other MMOs out there, and they all have ways for their economies and whatnot to work, and this is a way for it to work with Magic. And I wonder if there'd ever be something similar for ranged and melee. Obviously, the Masterworks side of it.
Bloodwood,
right,
Bloodwood
by Criminal Bolts, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You could do that every 6 hours, and you make a ton of money, GP per hour wise, don't you?
Yeah, especially if you tip the bolts and enchant them. So, I don't know. I don't personally have a problem with it because I'm not a Magic user, and in the odd chance I would need to use Magic, I generally keep a stockpile of these water runes around from daily rune shop runs. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe if you wanted to address this, Tannis' solution is the best. Just rotate the thing back around.
Yeah. I mean, I have about 170k water runes on my Iron Man. So once I get an FSOA, that's like a month of PVM. So we're doing great.
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
Well, yeah, it's not uncommon with that staff to use upwards of 10k water runes an hour, right?
Well, yeah. My friend and I, the one who's getting married, finally experienced the meme, Solak, where on P3 he ran out of water runes by P3. So they go fast, and of course he has 16k in his pouch, but they go quick.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, I guess that's something to watch out for. Other option, like you mentioned, would be modifying multipliers of the elemental runes, but this also factors in with this that there's things like Power Burst of Sorcery and whatnot that are able to be used every 2 minutes on this that double your rune multiplier, so that you can get a spike of runes that way. And previously that didn't exist, so imagine without that how many water runes we'd be bringing in. It'd be a lot less. So
yep, definitely. Yeah, that's true.
You should give it a try for an hour, Tannis, and see how it goes for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now.
The 28 mil also, Tannis, definitely assumes the relics.
Yes, it assumes relics, extreme rune crafting potions, Power Burst of Sorcery, and the Abyssal Titan. Plus,
I got all the peripherals except for. Well, I'm guessing I could get the relics if someone.
Yeah, the relics. You just need the relic that teleports you to the middle of the abyss instead of the outer ring where you have to, crawl through a tunnel or whatever. It saves a ton of time.
Gotcha.
And Power Burst of Sorcery are buyable on the GE. Extreme rune crafting potions, you might even just be able to make those if you have Spider Venom and the Yak Milk around with the for the super rune crafting potions. That is, I tried farming the Yak Milk for a bit, and honestly, the amount of milk I was getting really just wasn't worth it over what I was doing for Ultra Compost before, because obviously you can only get the milk from the female yaks.
Oh,
So,
Yep.
well,
all right.
yeah, you don't want to drink the other kind.
No, they need to release a new item called Ultra Yak Milk so you get some male yaks.
Oh, God. All right, moving on. The render distance of players and NPCs in the wilderness has been increased to match the rest of the world. And this is originally a restriction that was brought in to match the Java client, which has since been deprecated. Who knew? Forgot about that. So,
Yeah.
your
Java
world will
client.
render, but the players wouldn't render if they were in that range in the wilderness.
Yep. This makes those camo potions more useful for you. Oh, I shouldn't say griefers. That's mean. For you PKers out there.
Yeah.
Legacy hit splats can now be selected for all miscellaneous hit splats, including poison, heals, soul split, etc. The tab key can now be used as a custom bind, and as a result of this, the reply message feature can now be bound to an alternate non-printable key.
Yeah, I like jumped up in my chair when I saw this because there have been Reddit memes about this for like 3 years.
I bet you wanted for switching target, right?
Absolutely. It's the keybind. It's the key that makes the most sense for target cycle. My previous target cycle keybind was obnoxious as heck to use, and now I could just use tab.
Yeah. Bladed Dive now resets its cooldown after killing living rock strikers and protectors. Equipping a Slayer.
This is so random.
Yeah. Equipping a Slayer helmet or mask after an NPC dies, but before the drop appears, will no longer double the drop without progressing the kill count on the item. For a drop to be double, items must be worn for 10 seconds before a drop appears.
So this is clearly a bug. But honestly, this is some of the most try-hard, absurd stuff I've ever heard of in my life.
And I bet it was being used at the Lords because those things have a really long death animation.
Absolutely. But it is. Like, could you imagine going to that level of effort? Like, I would never do this.
No.
I don't know, Shane, would you do this if you knew about it?
No. No.
It's just like at a certain point, the try-hardness becomes like clownery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whetstone can now be used to repair fleeting boots. The whetstone is the item that allows you to repair your degraded combat equipment outside of your POH or Bob.
Yeah, it's with your legendary pet, right?
What?
Yeah, I think your legendary pet. Oh, you're talking about the invention.
Yeah.
Item.
Yeah,
you can do it on your legendary pet too.
Oh, really? Interesting. I didn't know that. I'd also like to take an opportunity to mention here fleeting boots, since the very beginning, fleeting boots have been bugged, so that if you are using rapid fire and your target dies, you will get stunned. That still happens. I'd just like to mention that since we're talking about fleeting boots. You're probably wondering why. Well, this has killed me at a boss before. So, yes. The Blast Fusion Hammer can no longer be equipped in the main hand. And this is the item that is used to forge dragon armor for other things. And I think it's used for something new as well. I forget what it's used for recently on this. But previously, apparently, you could wield it, I guess. Oh, it's used for the Pickaxe of Song. So. Okay.
I don't remember doing that, but I guess I must have.
Yeah, you must have. You must have if you have a Pickaxe of Earth and Song. Or if you made a dragon plate body at one point. Now here's one. Brielle Foxdaughter's name is no longer censored whenever it's typed in chat.
Thank goodness. Every day for years I've tried to type this name. And
what part of it, I wonder, was tripping it up? The Brielle or the Foxdaughter?
I don't know.
That's weird.
Like, I don't see anything there that would raise a flag.
It's amazing that players find stuff like this.
Could you imagine being on Portable's World and the one thing that gets triggered is Brill Fox daughter?
Oh boy, there's lots of other stuff that happens on Portable Worlds, isn't there?
Yeah, Portable Worlds is where you become a man.
Oh god, or venture into RuneScape's version of the alt-right.
That's true.
And finally, defense pylons will no longer attack the player in the boss arena. So this is another example of embracing bugs, because a few weeks back, the defense pylons in the ED1 were made to attack players again, and obviously players didn't like that, so defense pylons will no longer attack players. And this is in the room before, in the room with the flying serpent things.
Yeah.
Can I get a lobbyist, Shane?
What do you want to do?
I don't know, but I feel like the Skillers need a lobbyist.
Yeah, there was a lot here, wasn't? Oh, I got one for you.
Well,
I got one here for you.
All the bugs that become features just kind of blow my mind.
Here. I'll add an extra patch note in that I wasn't going to mention this week for you on the combat side. An issue has been fixed with Magic Note paper not noting larger versions of the sandstone blocks.
Okay.
And the Xavier's pet's green coloring option is now consistent when overriding legendary pets and when summoned by itself.
Well, I have been using a lot of pets lately.
But I think those are really the only two combat related or non-combat related things in the patch notes this week. I mean, there was a Tetra Compass location in Tyrannon that was moved for better access, but you're going to get pointed to that, so I didn't really mention that one. Movement will no longer stall when using the loved up rest animation. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we do need a big combat or big skilling.
Just even it out a little bit. But I mean, like I said, the thing that's blowing my mind is just the bugs becoming feature. Kind of feel like a trend happening here.
Yeah, and some of them. Well, I'm thinking primarily the Carapac one, but obviously Tendrils is now codified in the way it works. But I can see that happening, and that might be an interesting question for somebody to ask at a live stream at some point in the future. So that's it for the patch notes this week. That was a long patch notes segment. This has to be one of our longest patch note segments ever, I think.
Do you two have a favorite patch note?
Oh.
Mine is Vuln Bombs. I think
making
Vuln Bombs universally accessible to any player is great.
I think the Elite Dungeon changes for Duo and Trio.
That's a good one.
That's what mine would have to be. Tannis? Do you have one?
I gotta go with Soul Runes.
Okay, yeah, Soul Runes. But then once again, you might as well just go craft water runes if you're looking to do it for money.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, but Insight Fear, that's the hotness.
Yes, but it generates adrenaline, and you got to have somewhere to spend that adrenaline. Otherwise, if you're just sitting at high 80s, 90s without spending it, you probably don't need to be spending that much money on Soul Rune or Soul Waters for that. So,
yep.
All right.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So before we move on and talk about the Jagex Launcher, which was just announced today, I believe it was. Other things that came out today include our most recent micro lesson, efficient herb farming for profit, recorded by yours truly. So you can find this in full at youtube.com/RSBANDB if you want to share it with your friends, but we're going to have a listen to that right now. In this micro lesson, you'll learn to maximize the number of herbs that you can farm in a herb run. A micro lesson is a short and to the point video guide that teaches you about RuneScape. This time, I'm going to teach you what pieces of equipment and unlocks maximize herbs received during a herb run. For a long time, herbs were dropped only by monsters, but with the advent of farming, that all changed. Over time, it's become possible to net more than 100 herbs per run, and one of the biggest questions asked is how do you get so many herbs? There are lots of items that can increase the number of herbs that you harvest, but understanding how they interact is complicated and has taken years of work by the community to build a unified understanding of the harvest mechanics. Each patch starts with 3 lives, and additional lives are added based on the type of compost used. 1 for standard compost, 2 for super, and 3 for ultra compost. This makes the type of compost used one of the most important factors for increasing the number of herbs harvested. Based on patch lives, your farming level, the type of herb, and whether or not you're using magic secateurs, your character will roll on each herb harvested whether or not to remove one of those patch lives. The magic secateurs are from the quest of Fairy Tale Part 1 Growing Pains, which provides an additional 10% chance to save a life while harvesting. Full math on this can be found on the wiki, and that's linked in the description below. Other factors include the Juju Farming Potion, which provides a 33% chance of picking 2 herbs while harvesting. The Green Fingers Aura at its highest tier provides a 15% chance of providing an extra herb, and it also prevents your herbs from getting diseased for 20 minutes. Ideally, you want the Tier 5 Legendary version, but any version is better than nothing. The Master Farmer outfit also provides a 10% chance to provide an extra herb when worn, and this will go down to 5% if just using the Crop Farmer outfit. These are the pieces of equipment and tools that will enable you to harvest more herbs and are by far the most important to bring along. As you harvest herbs, you can use the herb on the tool leprechaun to note them. Linked in the description below, you'll find a link to the wiki's beautiful herb yield calculator that factors in these pieces of equipment and tells you which herb is most profitable to farm. That being said, we also have to have a look at some of the other important pieces of the puzzle. The Scroll of Life is purchasable from the Dungeoneering Reward Store at level 25 Dungeoneering and Farming. It provides a 5% chance to save a tree seed and 10% chance to save any other seed, including our herb seeds. If you have the modified farmer's hat or have attached it to your Master Farmer outfit, you'll be using it again as it provides an additional 2% chance of saving a seed when sowing. The Pharmacology Relic unlocks at level 81 Archaeology, which prevents your herbs and mushrooms from dying. If you don't have Pharmacology, you could use either the Herb Protector or Miraculous Treatment devices from Invention, but these are much more expensive options. Another expensive option is to use the Rapid Growth spell to skip a growth phase for your herbs to reduce the number of potential disease cycles to 2 from 3 if you're using a Green Fingers Aura. You can also monitor your herbs with the Remote Farm spell or Remote Farming device at the Manor Farm and cast Cure Plant if they become diseased. There are 7 herb patches that are farmed, and it's entirely possible to get to all 7 patches in the 6 minutes the Juju Farming Potion is active. To get around easily, you're going to want a good selection of teleports. These include unlocking all lunar teleports to access Trollheim and Catherby easier. In the absence of lunars, you can use the traditional Trollheim teleport, then run there and then activate your aura and potion at the patch, effectively starting your run there. And the Catherby Lodestone can be used to reach the Catherby patch easier. The Elite Ardoyan and Medium Lumbridge task sets are also nice for unlimited daily teleports to the Manor Farm and Falador Cabbage Patch respectively, or the Ardoyan and Draenor Lodestones can be used instead. Your modified Farmer's Hat or Master Farmer outfit, if you own both, will get you to the Port Phasmates patch 3 times a day. You can also use the Ectophial or Canifus Lodestone or the nearby Fairy Ring at Fairy Ring code ALQ. To access the most dangerous part of the herb run, you'll use the Wilderness Sword. This comes from the Easy Wilderness tasks, which makes it one of the easier items on this list to achieve. To access the Prifdinus Cruis farming patch, you'll want a Crystal Teleport Seed. If you don't have this, just use the Prif Lodestone. After watching this video, you should feel like you can start herb farming even if you don't have the full suite of equipment. Using a fully kitted out setup, it's not out of the realm of possibility to expect on average 14 herbs per patch. With farming Spiritweed, this leads to profits of just over 1 million GP per run as of recording. Even without auras, Juju Potions, or the Master Farmer's outfit, you can still expect to gain 7 herbs per patch. Please note, this microlesson is intentionally brief. This is just a snapshot of what a fully optimized herb run looks like. You can complete yours in any order. With that in mind, what's your favorite herb route to take? let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video at all useful, like and subscribe. We're doing it. We're doing skilling microlessons now. What do you guys think?
Woo! I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. I have a few ideas of where we're going to go next for the skilling ones. I want to talk to a few of you guys here first who are on this episode with that to kind of gauge an idea of where that's going. But I think we're going to do a few more skilling ones, and then perhaps back to combat. We're gonna try and sprinkle them all in. So of course, if you like these micro lessons, do give them a like and subscribe on YouTube, as it helps the channel out a lot. So thanks everybody. And with that, let's talk about the Jagex Launcher. Did you install this?
Not.
Okay.
No, I didn't, because I thought, why? Like, you got the client.
That's Steam.
I'm so done with every single company
Every
having
game
their own
having
launcher.
its own launcher.
Yeah. I was just no.
The way they're selling this is that you don't need to enter your password more than once every 30 days.
Oh man, you know what, Shane? When I play with Steam, guess when the last time is I put my password in?
Same thing. Never.
Never.
No. And what they say it'll also be able to do with this, if you go to the page where they're talking about the Jagex Launcher, they said it'll be a way to manage all your RuneScape accounts. Accounts, plural.
That's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it says, plus later this year, you'll be able to use the launcher to switch between all of your RuneScape / old school accounts faster and safer than before. They'll also add support to Mac OS and give old school players the ability to play and install RuneLite with this.
Well, I wonder if you would be able to, play your multiple accounts this way. That might be really nice.
Yeah.
But other than that, I still stand by we don't need a launcher for every game.
And what this tells me is that there's going to be some technical change at some point later this year that will effectively allow you to bring all of your RS accounts into this one launcher. Whether that means the accounts are still separate and you just add them in by adding the password once, and then you're just able to pick and choose which you add, or if they're going to a single login approach. I honestly think the first one would probably be simpler to them. Just add it to the launcher, sign in once, and away you go, rather than just having a single sign in for all your RS accounts. Sign into the alt, sign into the Iron Man, sign into the main, and then just be able to pick and choose which you would run. So
yeah, as long as that doesn't prevent multi-logging, then that sounds good to me.
That's a good question.
But multi-logging has been a huge feature of RS since 2001. So
yeah, and it wasn't until recent years that they actually looked at the rules and said, hey, you can play with your alts and they can interact with each other as long as you're not boosting achievements or something silly like that.
Sure, yeah.
And they say this is just the beginning. Next week, we will be hosting a live stream outlining our plans for the platform and answering your questions. Plans for the platform.
What do they get out of it? That's what I want to know.
Well, Jagex wants to be a publisher, so expect to see Melver Idol turn up and anything else they publish in the future as well. Including a game that was just announced today. I don't know if this is going to be in there yet, but there's a new early access game out on Steam published by Jagex called This Means Warp.
It's going to be
a space shooter.
Rockstar's
it's a space
launcher.
Shooter.
Really?
Yeah. Early access on Steam. A paid game, $23 Canadian, so probably $19.99 US. Developer, Outlier, publisher, Jagex.
I'll be damned.
So perhaps all these published games are going to be added to this launcher as well. Interesting. I don't know. I'm probably still going to just continue to play the way that I have, but I can see this being a boon to people with multiple accounts. And I'll also highlight the security aspect of it, is that if people only have to enter their account or account password once every 30 days, this is also a security boost, because that's just fewer times for you to be potentially keylogged.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, there could be some good things. I mean, I'm pretty much down to just my main right now anyway.
Yeah.
So I will continue with Steam. But yeah.
And I don't know particularly what they're doing with this, but I loaded it up on Windows, and it's a 32-bit app. I don't know who builds a 32-bit app in 2022, when most Windows operating systems and such are 64-bit. I don't know who builds a 32-bit binary in 2022. I mean, you do it for compatibility, but you also offer a 64 version as well. But who knows? Who knows? That's just me being nitpicky. All right, we do have a listener question this week from Sunset Fish, who says, I know it's not Halloween season yet, but still, has there ever been a part of RuneScape that you have been found to be disturbing or outright scary? Some of us have been playing since we were much younger, and for him, he says it's the undead cows and chickens outside of Port Phasmates. They still give him the chills, and whenever this happens, whenever he walks by them for the herb patch. I've never really thought of a part of RS as scary. You guys?
Well, you scared me, Shane, with your embracing of torture during is it the dwarves?
Okay.
The 24. That was a little disturbing to me.
But hey, I mean, they put it in the quest, and obviously they haven't done that since. But you had to make a decision, so I just went for it.
Yeah, that's the only disturbing thing that I can think of.
David, anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure if anything is disturbing exactly. I mean, I think that the parts of, is it Lord of Vampirion or River of Blood, where the entire world kind of goes black and white and red, and there's all the weird animations and stuff.
The chirpy part
you know
of
what
the
I'm talking
quest,
about?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the idea of just like going totally delusional is existentially scary to me, if that makes sense.
All right. Fair enough. And for the questers and such out there, I will, of course, say Broken Home as well. I personally didn't have much of a problem with it. Though I guess if you were playing it with headphones and you were truly immersed into it, maybe some of the jump aspects of it around Halloween could pose a problem on that. And I think this just raises a bigger question. Should Jagex ever go down this path of making, like a horror style quest in that regard for Halloween as a one-off kind of thing? Because they do have that teen 16 plus rating now in the UK for the game.
Hey, that would be great. Just don't make it timed.
True.
Stop it with the timed.
That's what happened with Broken Home.
Yeah. You can make a Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm cool with that. That's fun. Just don't make it timed.
Maybe. Well, I mean, imagine an extension of the environment, actually, of the Centistan Asylum. I think that'd be the natural progression for that area.
Mm.
That would be.
In some ways, Shane, a needle skips is kind of weird and scary and tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Not from a visual perspective necessarily, but the voice acting.
Just from what was talked about with it. I think I remember saying that was the only quest to ever give chills.
Right, that's what I mean. It's more the storyline and dialogue than the visuals. But I would say that's a scary quest.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. Because it wasn't necessarily done with graphics; it was just good storytelling. On the part of Maud Osborne and Maud Krista, both of which who have, of course, departed now. But that fun quest. Everybody should go do needle skips if you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I think we pulled together some good options for this. So thank you for your question, Sunset Fish. If you guys want to send your own questions in, DM them to us on Twitter at RSBANDB or post them to update.rsbnb.com/ask. All right, so before we move on to the achievements this week, we're going to do some picks of the week. I was playing this game not too long ago, and I was thinking, has this ever been done for pick of the week? And I pulled up the website, the update website for this, and lo and behold, this had never been done for pick of the week, and it's a indie game published by Team 17. Who back in the day published the Worms game. They published this game called Golf with Your Friends. It is essentially mini golf that you play with your keyboard and mouse. And there's, of course, not just your traditional mini golf courses, but there's all sorts of examples. There's a good desert-themed one. There's a Worms-themed one. There's a Candyland-themed one. There's one that's set in space, on a space station as well. I'd imagine it goes for $14.99 US, maybe $9.99 depending on currency, but it's $17.49 Canadian. And the way it does customization is you can customize the hats that your ball wears. You can customize, of course, the color of your ball. It requires very, very low system requirements, and this might be something at some point in the future we actually do for a roundtable or maybe even an update event, just online kind of mini golf thing. But I'd be interested to hear how many people have this. If you don't have it, definitely check it out. It's available on Steam. It's called Golf with Your Friends, and it's just a really fun way to spend a night with some people. So Golf with Your Friends is the pick of the week.
I got it. Looking forward to customizing my balls. Maybe put a couple hats on them. Yeah.
David, you going to pick this up? You ever heard of this?
It sounds like a lot of fun. I feel like I've definitely played this game at a friend's house before or something very similar to it. So
right. Fair enough. So that's linked in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com. What do you got, David?
Yeah, so my pick of the week is a show on Netflix called Disenchantment. And it's a very similar kind of vibe and feel to Futurama because it's the same writer and director, and many of the characters are voiced by the same voice actors. And it's in that genre of like slapstick humor, adult cartoons with a broader kind of plot. And the new season came out a couple weeks ago. It's one of my favorite shows ever. And if you're into the genre of cartoon animation that is meant for adults, then I think this show is an excellent binge candidate.
All right. Probably not my cup of tea. How about you, Tanis?
Oh, I'd be down for it. Yeah, it sounds hilarious. I like Futurama,
it is hilarious. If you like Futurama, I think this is a more modern, better version of Futurama. It has a more medieval theme and aesthetic than it's a very classical medieval type theme.
Right on.
And did they drop it drop the episodes all at once, or is it week to week?
Oh yeah, it's Netflix, Shane.
Okay.
We want our customers glued to our screens. We drop every episode at once. And you sit
See,
there and don't click away.
That's interesting. Most of the shows I watch are still week to week.
Yeah, well, one day, technocracy is going to get you too, Shane. Maybe today is not that day, but it will draw you into its clutches one day when there's a new version of Star Trek that is on Netflix or Hulu, and it drops an entire season at once.
Oh, we
And
already
we'll just
have them
to
on
deal with
streaming
it.
services. They just don't do them all at once.
Every
I'd
I
like
know.
to see that.
I'm saying one day they're going to drop a full season at once on you, and you're going to have to sit there and ask yourself, do I wait week by week, or do I sit here and watch this screen until
I know what would have
eyeballs
happened.
hurt?
What would have happened with Discovery this season in Picard if they would have done that?
And
That
what's
would've
that?
Already been done.
Would have been there for hours.
Yeah, just get yourself some Red Bull and some popcorn and whatever your favorite candy is, and that's you for the next 24 hours.
Oh, it'd be interesting to do that. Anyways, some achievements this week. Starting off on March 16th, we have Aomi, who got 99 Slayer. Avocado Owned with 120 Dungeoneering. Dat Engineer with 120 Archaeology. Pony Picker got 120 Constitution. Tim 2 got 120 Defense. And Alio Sith got 99 Strength.
We've got Dan Brigham with 99 Fishing on March 14th. Also on March 14th, Darkest Night with 99 Invention. Also March 14th, Tim 2 with 120 Rune Crafting. And on March 13th, Big Diggy got 99 Archaeology. Jakir got 120 Constitution. And Lord Deluxe got 99 Dungeoneering, all on March 13th.
Nicely done.
Right. And moving on to the 12th, we have Alio Sith with 99 Divination. We have Dark Wizard with 99 Archaeology. And then on the 11th, we had Big Diggy with 99 Cooking. And Questar Shit with 120 Fire Making on March 11th.
Quester shit, that name. He got his 120, or sorry, not 120 Master Quest Cape this week, and drew a whole boatload of messages in about that when that came out over the broadcast.
I bet so.
All right, what have we been doing? What have you been up to this week, Tannis?
I am down to only 4K Dark Animika to mine, and then the long process of plate bodies shall begin.
Oh my god.
And I'm kind of curious, like, I haven't done the math because I just kind of want to do it and see what happens, but I have about 50K Elder Rune bars when I'm done smelting these. And I wonder how many.
I'm wondering how much money you could get for this.
Yeah, it'll be like the biggest pile I've ever had.
And are you taking it all the way to burial, or what are you doing?
No, I'll probably take it to fours or just whatever the market says at that point.
Yeah. Okay. You know, that's... I always, like I said, go back and forth about whether or not that's something I'd want to do, but I don't.
Well, I mean, I'm after 120s anyway, so I mean, it had to be done with mining. I could have done Siren Stone, but I just thought
Like they're 1.7 mil
this.
for a 4, and I mean, I don't know how many you would need or how many you'd make for that, but I mean, if you made 1,000 of them, that'd be tons of money.
Well, I'll have a lot more than 1,000, I'm sure. We're looking at 50K Elder Rune bars, man.
Yeah, and I don't know offhand the math about how many plus 4s the 50K bars will get you. So
Yeah, I don't either, but it's got to be a lot.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I might be able to buy some PVM equipment.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Hey.
What have you been up to, David?
So lately I've been doing a bunch of Solak when I have people to go with, and I recently got a Grimoire on my Iron Man, so I'm super happy about that. And I have been doing tons of Elite Dungeon 2, and I did a lot of Slayer when Abyssal Creatures came out because I wanted to take advantage of the early bird. And I think I did like 12 mil Slayer XP in 3 days, or 13 mil Slayer XP in 3 days. So that was a lot for me. I don't know if that's a lot for other people.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So Slayer, and then lately mostly Solak, ED2, and Iron Man dailies.
As for me, of course, still, just basically working on Yak Track at this point, and trying to do raids whenever I can. That's been my PVM, with a bit of Reaper thrown in here and there. A big achievement on that was that the other day I completed finally the Mazcab rep all the way to the top tier 5,000 reputation, which lets me have a reroll on the raids drops. Which, of course, at the end of the day, just if you don't get a codex or a piece of armor, reroll that, or if you get a bad money roll on that, just reroll that. So that was satisfying to do, but. Just progressing through Yak Track. I think I'm on Yak Track task 30 at the moment. Mainly just been following that and doing what it suggests, unless it's something weird like dungeoneering or kill certain amount of monsters. But I'm having a good time with that. Just focusing on Yak Track stuff, basically at this point.
Congrats on 5K rep. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was done basically through daily tasks, and whenever there was a burial charm on the deep sea fishing hub, or whenever I would get one as a drop, it would all sum it up. So that's just been an ongoing project since about December or so, actually. So
that's great. And then are you using your reroll on Yakka first, or are you rerolling BM first?
Is there a specific way I should do that?
Well, so if you don't loot until after Yakka, and you loot Yakka first and then reroll Yakka, it gives a higher chance of getting an Acto piece, because Yakka has a higher Acto rate. And you should make sure this is correct, but I'm pretty sure BM has a slightly higher Codex rate. So if you don't care about Acto and just want GP, I think that it is better to use your reroll on BM. And if you want Acto to complete the title and whatnot, it's definitely better to use your reroll on Yakka. And then, like, if you loot Yakka, you get a piece, then of course you would just reroll BM.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that. I will look into that and verify, but thank you for the tip on that. So, all right, but I believe that's it for this episode of RSBANDB Update. I know we covered a lot of the Combat Ninja Strikes. So if you guys want access to this, or you need podcast delivered automatically to you, subscribing is the best way to do that, because that way then you won't miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and of course YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. There you can find our full episodes, and of course the micro lessons that we're putting out each and every week. So with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.